Hey everybody, let's make chicken soup in the Instant Pot. Let's start with one whole chicken fryer, about 5 to 7 pounds. Crushed garlic, salt, turmeric, black pepper. You're going to want additional garlic and Italian seasoning. Russet potatoes, celery sticks, carrots, white onion. Wild rice, and a pasta that you would like to have in the soup. 1 can of corn, not frozen or fresh, it just holds up better. Now the reason you're going to want to use a whole chicken fryer like this, or fryer chicken, however you want to call it, is because when you boil this, when you put this in the Instant Pot and cook the bird as whole, you're going to be releasing the marrow that's in the bones, and it's going to actually make that broth really good, really flavorful. So let's start by cleaning this thing up. To do this, I'm just running it under some cold water, making sure to wash up everything that's kind of been stuck in that package with it. If there's anything inside of the bird, like neck, guts, anything like that, make sure you yank those out. We don't want to be cooking those. Now we're just going to add the chicken directly to the Instant Pot. There we go. From here, we're just going to add 12 cups of water. Doesn't matter if it's hot, doesn't matter if it's cold. This is where you're going to put as much Italian seasoning and garlic herb, garlic pepper, garlic salt, whatever you'd like, as just a base seasoning. Make sure you lock the Instant Pot. Now I'm going to go high pressure for 11 minutes. If you're frozen, you have a bird that's frozen or bigger, you're going to want to use a little bit more time, maybe 13 to 15 minutes. But we're going to cook it again, so even undercooking is still okay. Let's clean the veggies. So for the carrots, of course you're going to want to wash these off. This is a root vegetable. These come out pretty dirty usually from the store. I'm just taking the broad end of the knife and I'm scraping off kind of the dirt here. You can also scrub these to get rid of that, but I think this works really well for soup. Celery, same kind of thing. Just kind of wash it after you trim off the big bushy head parts. Should look like this. Potatoes, you might need to scrub these a little bit. Sometimes you get dirt and little cracks, but just give it a good scrubbing under the water. All right, cutting the veggies. I like to cut these fat because the fatter the veggie, the better it tastes in the soup. I'm cutting about just a little over ½ an inch on these celery sticks. So hurry and cut through these. See, it's a little fat. Now, carrots, same kind of thing, get rid of the ends. And I'm also going to make these fat. The carrots have wonderful flavor, especially in a soup like this. It's actually my favorite part. So we're going to make these kind of fat as well. Now, if you have someone that's sick and you're making this soup for somebody, this is a really cool thing to do. You can turn these carrots into hearts. And I'll show you how to do that here. I'm going to cut kind of a diagonal piece on the top of going in about ½ an inch. Cut it right on the other side of that. And I'm going to pull this little piece out here and you'll see the kind of the top of the heart. So let me cut that little piece out. There you go. Also looks like a Pac-Man. Then I'm just going to kind of shave down the sides. Just do like a diagonal cut on each side. Instant Pot's going off. And you should have this cute little heart. Now you just have to cut it. Same kind of thing as before. We're making them pretty fat. Now the onion, cut off both sides of the onion. There's multiple ways to cut an onion. This is how I like to do it. Then we're just going to cut it right in half and we're going to peel the outermost layers off. Get rid of all that kind of skin. Put it to the side. And for this, no real size requirements. I just dice it up. Kind of as close as your fingers will let you. The result here should be something about this size. Zoom tight. Here's our veggies. All right, potato. We're going to cut these into about 1 inch size. So a little bit bigger than the rest of the veggies that we have. Now with potatoes, as you're cutting them, you might not notice some of the blemishes inside of them until you're done cutting. At which point you'll see a little piece that looks kind of gross. Just cut it off. You don't want someone getting that in their soup. So this is completely optional. I didn't even put this in the ingredient list, but a jalapeno, I love this in a soup because it just gives like a tiny little bite. You don't really taste the jalapeno, it doesn't overpower it. But if you want to put one in here, just make sure you cut out all of the seeds. You don't want a bunch of seeds floating around in chicken soup, it doesn't make sense. So we're gonna dice this thing up, cut it into a couple little spears, and add this to the list. Now for the size on this one, I make these really small. So again, they're just kind of invisible. You will not even see these in the soup when you're eating it. Most people would not even notice the jalapenos in it, but again, nice little tiny bite. Just to add to the flavor. Totally optional. And our new veggies should look like this when we're done with these adorable hearts. All right, when the chicken timer's up, should be done right around the time you're done cutting all these veggies if it lines up perfectly. We're going to, you can actually open this, not let it natural release at all, or you can let it go for a couple minutes. I'm letting this go for like 3 minutes, and then I'm gonna pop the top. Now when that pin is done, you'll see the little pin drop here. We're gonna open it up and we're gonna get this chicken pulled out of the soup. Now to do this, you see this white bucket in the upper corner. I'm going to use that to get this chicken out of here. So if you have a pair of tongs, this works the best. You could, I guess you could use a fork, something like that, maybe salad forks, but if you can get the tongs, you get right underneath the wings and you just pinch and you can pick the bird right up, let all the broth drain out of it. Basically just put it in this bucket. We're gonna let it cool for a minute before we start shredding it. Now inside the broth, you see some floaties floating around there. That's because we boiled an entire bird with skin and everything on it. So if you have a little colander or like a little strainer, take it and use it as a scoop. And we're actually gonna go through the broth here and get all that nasty gunk out. Now some of it's seasoning, right? But a lot of that is just skin and kind of residue from inside the chicken. It wouldn't taste bad, it would actually taste just fine, but it looks gross, so get rid of it. So we're gonna scoop all this out and I'm gonna go dump it in the trash. Now, when you're done, you'll know because as you scoop through it, nothing really comes out besides like Italian seasoning. So now I've got this clear broth boiled out of that chicken. And now we're gonna start adding everything into the soup. So starting with the rice, do not put the pasta in yet. We've got pepper, turmeric, salt, minced garlic, all of the veggies. You just dump these in. Careful of the splashing when you do this. You can kind of get it as an angle. You can see I'm using the cutting board to kind of block it from splashing up. And then the jalapeno also, if you're choosing to do that. Now, canned corn, I'm pouring it on the ladle so again it doesn't splash everywhere. Now, you can add chicken broth or chicken bouillon here, but we boiled this bird in here, so we actually don't need this at all. We have a really nice chicken broth here, and I'm gonna zoom in on it here so you can see what I'm talking about. See kind of the oily color you have here? This is a perfect chicken broth. We don't need to add anything. Now, if you really, really like that kind of salty chicken flavor, do it. Add the broth. I'm adding some more Italian seasoning, a little bit more garlic. I feel like you can never have enough, especially if it's for someone sick. Stir it all in, and those are just to taste, so however much you want to put in, should have a nice looking soup like that. Now shredding the bird, I'm peeling the skin off here. I'm just gonna pull off as many chunks as I can here from the front. Of course, this is cutting into the breasts. I'm just gonna rip this off. Get a good amount here. We're actually gonna cook this a second time with all the rest of the soup, so now I'm kind of finishing off, plucking off what I can. And then we're gonna turn the bird over. Grab some of the dark meat from underneath it. Depending on the size of chicken you got, you might have too much. and you could use this for other stuff, this will fill the soup up if you use too much of it. So just make sure you're considering the ratios when you do it. Adding it all right back into the soup. Now stir it up, and you should have a really nice blend of all the options. Now we're going to put the Instant Pot lid back on. You can see the pasta is not in. Make sure you lock it, clasp it. And we're going to set this for just 5 minutes. And we're not letting any natural release. We're going to immediately end it at the end of that 5 minutes. When the timer goes off, release the steam. When the pin drops, let's crack it open. We've got an almost complete soup. Now I'm adding the pasta in here. This water is really hot. Just let it sit there. We're going to let it sit there for about 15 minutes. And the temperature of this broth is going to cook that pasta just fine without making it soggy. That's the reason I'm not turning it on. Look how cute these hearts turned out. So that's what we're doing. We're not going to cook that pasta any additionally because we don't want it to be all nasty in this soup. We want it to be like a nice texture. After that 15 minutes, look how good this looks. Congratulations, you've got a complete done pot of soup. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you try this. I hope you like this. This is a wonderful, wonderful Instant Pot soup that I've been making for a few years and absolutely live by it. Thanks again. See ya.